right. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. It's your host, Brian Forbes, and this is the Black Factor. We are in the building and we ready to get it in. Today is Free Thinking Friday. That means we gonna open the floor to conversation from everybody. And we just gonna toss out a bunch of ideas and talk about a few of the things that's going on and have a little fun with it. Val, good evening. It is wonderful to see you as usual. I do appreciate you coming in and checking with me and hanging out on these Friday evenings. Well, these Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. But we're gonna get it in, y'all. And we're gonna talk about it. We're gonna talk about a whole bunch of stuff tonight. We're gonna have some fun with it because of course we have to discuss the debacle. I don't want to call it a debate. I'm gonna call it a debacle from last night. So that's where we're going with this here today. And trust and believe, we're gonna always have some fun and something funny to talk about. So y'all stay tuned. We're gonna get it in. All right. Man, there's so much stuff going on, y'all. I gotta keep up. But whatever you do, don't forget to subscribe, hit your notifications, check us out on Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, all for a platform stream at once. So you can always catch me when I'm streaming on any one of these at any given time, because we are attempting to spread the information, messages, and conversation across all platforms so that as many people who want to participate can. So that's what we own. But now, right off the top, probably to me, what is one of the most hilarious situations that's taken place over the last day or so, I find it to be quite amusing, is the fact that y'all's guy, 50 Cent. Y'all's man said publicly, I don't know how smart that was, but he said publicly that he is going to leave the country because if Donald Trump wins this election. Now, I don't know about the rest of y'all, but really, bruh, like, why was it necessary for you to even make that announcement that you are leaving the country? My thing is, if you're going to do something, shit, just do it. Just, go on and get on down. You don't need nobody's approval, I'm sure. But the funny part is, this is the people who care. This is a room full of the people who care that 50 Cent says he's going to leave the country if Donald Trump does not win the election. He don't want to spend that money, y'all. He don't want to be Brizoke, like a jizzoke. But I ain't gonna lie. I guess I don't really blame him. I mean, I get it. Everybody want to try to hold on to their money. But I think voting against your best interest or the best interest of those who look like you and those who actually have helped you to gain the fortune that you have, it's a little defeating. And I think some of us just we ain't feeling it. I ain't feeling it. I'll just put it that way. Now, right quick, y'all. Oh, also, let me do this. I'm going to put up good evening, Regina. How are you this evening? Dana Brock in the building. Stephanie Collier, Val, of course. before we get too far into this, I'm going to put this link up. If we have anyone who wants to come on the show and discuss any of the topics that we're on, this is a Zoom link. So if you want to come in and kick it with us, there's the link. All you got to do is click on that, and I'm going to bring you into the show. If you can hang, can you hang? Let us get some of your opinions and ideas and thoughts. Now, before I go there, though, I want to talk about this. So it turns out that in Chicago, something happened in October or earlier this month. Apparently, there's a guy who is a staple of the community, a mentor, a football coach, and someone that has supported the stopping of crime throughout Chicago and Inglewood. And in fact, I believe he's an Inglewood resident and supports the youth of the neighborhood. But there's only one problem. Apparently, this cat, who is married, by the way, and has 10 kids, shot his girlfriend in the back 3 times. Angela Coco Hardnett is in the building. Hey, Angela. Miss Coco. He shot his girlfriend in the back 3 times, who, by the way, was pregnant with his child. But it gets better. Or does it get worse? Apparently, his girlfriend, not the one he shot, but the one who drove him there in her car, is also pregnant with his child. Yeah, imagine that. So let's see. This guy was driven by one girlfriend to another girlfriend's house. He kills the girlfriend who shot her in the back 3 times at her house. She was also, and by the way, she was a parole officer. So he shot her in the back. His girlfriend drove the getaway car, his other pregnant girlfriend, and the girl that he shot, the woman that he shot, they delivered her baby, who only lived 4 days. So I'm guessing this guy is facing double homicide, among other things. Aside from the fact that he's got to, I can't imagine. I don't even know what to say about this story. I ran across it. I saw it. Some people that I know actually know the guy in Chicago, and he shot the lady 3 times, took off, and they're now asking for charges against the girlfriend who was driving as an accomplice. So that's an interesting developing story, and we're going to see what happens. He better be glad Illinois don't still have the death penalty, because they'd be looking to stick a needle in his arm. I don't know what the hell he was thinking. Well, with that said, it's probably saying too much. I don't even know what to make of all of that. I'm still kind of speechless about it, actually. But the thing is, oh, wait a minute. We got to get it together here, y'all. So last night, I guess everybody watched the debate, if that's what you want to call what happened last night. I had to admit, it was better. It was better than what it had been. So it wasn't terrible. So we'll go with that part. It wasn't the worst. It could have been a little bit better. And Donald Trump was actually restrained. He actually was able to control himself, at least for the first half an hour anyway, before he kind of started coming unglued. But let's talk about this. Donald Trump said he prepays his taxes. Where they do that at, y'all? If he prepays his taxes, hell, I want to put mine on layaway. Can I put my taxes on layaway? I just want to. I don't know. I think where my real problem is, why does everything have to be a lie? When do you make a decision that you're going to tell the truth about something, anything, just something, everything that comes out of the man's mouth is a lie. I don't know what to make of it. There's always somebody that's got to make an excuse and clean up his mess and explain what he meant. What happened to the guy being able to explain what he meant on his own? Because, of course, like he said last night, he takes full responsibility, but it's not his fault. Somebody explain that to me, please. How do you take full responsibility, but it's not your fault? Mr. Tony Bowen checking in. Riri, I see you. Thank you for coming. Hey, Miss Forbes, I see you looking in too. Very good. How do you take full responsibility for something, but then turn right around in the same breath, not even a separate paragraph, different sentence, and say, but it's not my fault? Wow, that's pretty amazing. Now, the other very interesting and funny part is that that man said that he is the least racist person in the building last night. Now, there's black people in the room, but you the least racist. And I'm willing to bet that he's probably got a black friend too. You know how they, I've got black friends. You know that guy. Well, my theory is that if you have to announce stuff like that, then 9 times out of 10, you're probably lying. And you're probably everything except what it is that you claim to be. So I don't know. They did not use the mute button, in my opinion, enough. They should have used it a little bit more. They should have, use that mute button in a way that kind of kept a little bit. But I do think that the moderator did a really good job. I really do. I'm not going to tear her down too bad. She did a pretty good job of keeping control of that situation. And like Dennis McCullum just said, that still makes him a racist. And I agree with you 100%, sir. You will get no argument from me there. That is the absolute truth. I'm going to post this link one more time. Anybody want to chime in? All you got to do is have Zoom and hit that link right there. And you can come into the conversation tonight. And we're going to, because this is Free Thinking Friday, and we're going to talk about it. Chime in and kick it with your boy right here live on The Black Factor. Because we here, y'all. Now, I got to thinking last night. I know I had these weird things that happened to me in the middle of the night. I'd be sleeping good too. And then I wake up about 3 a.m. and I have these weird thoughts. And so last night I got to thinking, and I know this is real cliche and kind of crazy, but it's like, what is my purpose? What is it that I'm supposed to be doing? And then it prompted me to think to myself, what is it that everybody, each and every one of us, is supposed to be doing? Now, the reason I started thinking about this was because when you look at people, let's use Ice Cube, for example, who is trying as hard as he can to bring awareness and attention to the necessities in the black community in regard to where we need to be and what we need to have, or what we should demand from our politicians, our leaders, and, so on and so forth. But then you have to understand, and I look at people just as an example, you have a lot of people who don't believe in voting. They don't believe that your vote counts. And I'm a little taken aback by that. Here's the thing. My belief is that everyone has a purpose. And I think that some people's purpose is a little more prominent than others. Or when I say prominent, I mean, sometimes we tend to gravitate toward fame, which when we think about the Ice Cubes and the 50 Cents of the world, my first problem is that why do they get preference in regard to the things that they're saying that they think that the black community needs or that we need around us over people who have actually been working on these things, not making rap records and all sorts of other stuff, but who have actually been working on the betterment, the justice, the equality in the black community on a serious level and should be taken very seriously, but are not and don't get the airplay or the airtime, yet they have comprehensive plans, have had these plans for a very long time, and have attempted to put them in front of the right people or to be taken seriously. Why does it take for somebody who is an entertainer, someone who we look at in music or actors or whatever the case may be? Why? I mean, if you think about it, this is the exact same way Donald Trump got elected. If it were not for his fame as The Apprentice, or his self-boasting and about his real estate fortune and being a rich man and all of this, who in fact was supported for many years by the rap community and other entertainers and musicians, and now has done everything to hurt a lot of these same people. But it's only because of his fame that so many people gravitated toward him, including those of color and those who don't necessarily agree with his ideologies. What happened to the individuals, the organizations like, ADOS, that is, in case for those who don't know, the American Descendants of Slaves and other organizations such as that? Why is no one taking them seriously when they absolutely have valid points and valid things that need to be dealt with? Now, I was very happy to hear Barack Obama speak the other day, and one of the things that he made very clear is that nothing is going to happen overnight. And what bothers me about the approach of 50 Cent and Ice Cube is that we wait right until we get into these last minute Hail Mary moments with days before an election, and all of a sudden everybody wants to jump up and down and act like it's so urgent that we demand something or we hold our vote and all of this sort of thing. These things take time. And yes, we've been at this for decades, but the problem is that for decades we have neglected to unify ourselves in a way that allows us to have a platform that gets things done. Now, I hate that we use the gay community as a measuring stick in the black community, and it happens, and I'm saying it because it happens. Otherwise, I wouldn't make the comparison. I wouldn't say it. But a lot of people get upset because they say the gays' agenda is being, the LGBT community agendas are being met at a faster pace than black people who have been in bondage for 400 years. Well, to that I say, and I have to understand this because I have to apply logic, and I have to understand that as a people, we've yet to show up in a unified fashion, such as the way the LGBTQ community has, and present an agenda that we must have implemented. We can't even agree among ourselves that one of the most simple concepts of democracy be applied, and that is just to vote. It don't cost you nothing. It's not an inconvenience. Legally, they have to give you time off to go do it. There's no real reason not to. Just to, if all of Black America collectively went out and voted just one time, you would be amazed at the amount of change that would take place damn near immediately. If Black people learn to collectively do business, I mean, some of us do, but there are so many others. How many times have we looked on Facebook and other platforms and we see people say things like, I ain't doing no more business with Black people. No more business with Black people because they never get it right, or some nonsense like that. It has nothing to do with the people of the color of the individuals providing the service or the product. It has to do with their work ethic and their inability to serve the customer service. Because just as equally as there are black people who have not fulfilled particular business necessities, there are white, there are Asian, there are Arabic, there are many, many, many others. And we need to stop attempting to hold our own to a higher standard than everyone else. That is a ridiculous notion, and we need to get past that. But when we are dealing with our democracy, and we have to try and figure out what each and every one of our purposes is, it may not necessarily be that of a 50 Cent or a Ice Cube or anybody else with a level of fame. I came to the conclusion last night while I sat there in the dark that everybody's purpose is different. And while it may seem minute, we have to remember that we're all put here for a reason. We're all put here to serve a purpose. Some of us are not meant to be here long. Sometimes children come into the world, and while we agree that they are innocent and have not had the time to commit the sorts of transgressions that people would say, well, they're dead, it's okay. We have to remember that they are also placed here to affect us, to affect the people around us and the things that we see and the way that we think or feel about particular things. And so while we grieve as humans in the flesh on earth, we have to remember that they served a purpose. Whatever that was, everybody is not going to see it. It may have been intended for only one individual to realize something because of that life. So I understand, and I ask myself very often, do I or have I affected people? And if I have, I would hope and pray that it had been in a positive way. Now, admittedly, there are a few folks out there that would rather do anything else than to see me coming. But on the other hand, there are those who welcome me at every turn because they know that I'm going to do everything in my power to impart knowledge, information, and if nothing else, a kind word. And if that affects the people around me in ways that will allow them to move about freely and happily, and help them to prosper and to help them to gain another level of perspective or clarity that will help them move about in their life or see progress or success, then I'm happy with that. I'm real happy with that. I was fortunate enough to have a man come to me one day many years ago, and it just shows you that we should all conduct ourselves a certain way because you never know who's watching you. But a man came to me one day, and he happened to be very successful in his business. And it was somebody that I hadn't seen in many, many years, decades. And in fact, I didn't even remember him. And he told me, he's like, Brian Forbes, man, I'm glad to see you. He was like, bruh, do you realize that my success today is because of you? And I had no idea what he was talking about. And it was the fact that he built his business based around some inspiration that I provided to him and some things that I told him and a certain attitude that I exhibited while I was in his company. And he told me that what I had told him made all the difference in the world. And he actually repeated it to me, and it blew me away because, again, sometimes we just don't realize the people that we affect and how we affect them. And that's why being negative and providing misinformation, lying, cheating, doing whatever you do, we have to remember that you don't know how that's going to affect somebody. And we got to remember that these things, they're going to come back around. They're going to come back around, and they may even come back to haunt if we're not real careful about what we do, what we say, who we say it to, and how we say it. These things are very important. So it leads me to also conclude in those thoughts that when we talk about people who encourage others not to vote, when we talk about people who like the chaos, they remind me of people in dysfunctional relationships. You meet people sometimes, and I have actually in my past dated women who were not happy unless they were in a chaotic situation. I had a lady once that I was dating who had a real slick mouth, talked real crazy sometimes. And one day she asked me, why is it that when I talk like that, you don't just hit me in the mouth? And needless to say, that kind of threw me a little bit. And I told her, well, for one thing, I'm not a woman beater. That's number one. Number two, if I have to put my hands on you, then we probably don't need to be together. And it made me realize that this is a person who doesn't think or believe or feel that the man that she's with loves her unless he's whooping her ass. Our people are not happy sometimes unless our social circumstances and the things that we deal with on a day-to-day ain't whooping our ass. It's too easy sometimes for some people to have and live a good life and to be comfortable and happy. If something chaotic is not taking place in their life, then they're dissatisfied. And I often wonder when people who encourage others not to vote say the things that they do, is it that they want the chaos? They're happy with the dysfunction and the fallout and the craziness that's going on around them. And I'm not saying that votes automatically make change. That's not what I'm saying. But I do follow the ideology of Barack Obama in his speech the other day when he said that we have to start somewhere. There's stepping stones. And if every time we take a step up on a stone and try to step up on the next one and somebody kicks the one out from behind you, of course you're not going to ever get up. You're not going to ever go up. People like to use the crab in a barrel mentality ideology. The fact is, crabs don't belong in a barrel. Yeah, they're going to try to get out. Well, I just think that we need to be careful about what we ask for. Because the fact is this. Let's say that all black people stayed home because we weren't happy with the voting situation and we were, oh, they're not going to do nothing for us. Skip it. We're not going to vote. Do y'all understand the amount of damage that would get done to us and this society? Believe it or not, we do matter. Black lives do matter, and they do count. If our votes did not account or amount to anything, please believe they wouldn't be working this hard to keep you from it. They would not have worked this hard to keep you from it over the last 100 years. And just like education, because at one time you could be killed for learning to read. Now people won't read even if it'll kill them. At one time, you couldn't vote. You had to take literacy tests. How many bubbles in a bar of soap? How many jelly beans in this jar? And yet we fought and people died, black and white, fought hard for just the right for y'all to be able to say, no, I don't want to vote. And after all that fighting, now you won't vote to save your own life. After all that dying, you got people walking around out here that don't understand that that right that you have to say no was provided by ancestors that have passed on, who put in the actual fight, who did the work, who gave you the opportunity to have that smug attitude and act like none of this matters. Y'all have no idea. I have no idea what any of that feels like. I have no idea what it feels like to have to step off the sidewalk when a white man passes me and casts my eyes to the ground. I have no idea what it's like to be told that I can't drink a Coca-Cola, but I could drink double cola because Coca-Cola is for white people. And yes, that's a true thing. That actually went on in the South. I have no idea what it's like to be humiliated and then forced to smile about it and act like I am the happiest Negro walking around today, and I'm gonna dance for the white man so that I can show him how happy I am. I have no idea what any of that feels like. I don't want to know what that feels like. But I do know I have a 96-year-old grandfather who has shared stories with me. Before my grandmother passed at 94, she shared some stories with me. Told me about how she was sitting on the L train in Chicago. This was back in the day when they had them old school L's with the windows that slid up. How a little white boy spit in her face. See, it annoys the hell out of me when we're here in this place and we still have an opportunity to gain more ground, but instead of doing that, we rather do nothing. Black people in America are the only group of people I've ever seen on this planet where all the places on this globe where democracy is trying to be born or trying to survive. And only people I've ever seen who think that not voting is a platform for protest, who actually believe that by not voting, they're going to get something. You get nothing. And in fact, you give away even more. I don't understand it. I get the idea that something needs to be done. I am not saying that it does not. But it doesn't have to be either or. It can be this and that. It can be both things. It doesn't have to be one or the other. And until we realize that, we're going to continue to have problems. It's like I always say, you got people who are mad for some reason about Black Lives Matter because they've allowed that organization to be infiltrated and dehumanized. And now it's becoming a terrorist group. Yet nobody complains about the KKK. And we sit back idly and we allow it to happen. And in fact, we join in on the folly. We think that it's funny. We think it's, they ain't gonna do nothing. Guess what? When they say Black lives, they're talking about most of y'all too. You're Black. Your children are Black. Your husbands, your wives, your family, your grandparents, your aunts, uncles, cousins, those Black lives. Just because it doesn't affect you directly doesn't mean that it doesn't affect others. And it goes back to what I said about affecting the people around us. There are people around us who are affected by what we do and what we don't do. When we encourage others not to vote, we're really saying to our own children, our family members and others, people in our community, that you don't care and it doesn't matter. So just imagine, and see, this is what I mean when I say we plant those seeds, when I talk about how important it is about the way we conduct ourselves and behave and the way it affects others. You think, I ain't gonna vote. I got something to prove. I ain't gonna vote. I don't know what you're gonna prove, but okay. It's free, but okay. But what would happen when your great-grandchild, your grandchild, understands that you have a certain ideology and they don't pursue something in their life that they should be pursuing because of what you did or didn't do? It doesn't take much. It only takes a couple of words sometimes to deter people. There are things in my own life that I'm not even going to say I should have been doing, because I do, on the flip side of this, I do believe things happen the way that they're supposed to. However, I do believe that there are more things that I could have and probably should have been doing. But there are places in my life where I was discouraged by an elder, by somebody I respected, by some people that I thought knew more and were smarter. And I now realize that I was wrong, but I didn't know any better. And I can only look at these people with a level of empathy that says to me, I feel sorry for you because you don't even realize your own greatness. What does it hurt us to see the greatness in others around us? What does it hurt us to encourage those who can to do as much as possible? And if you don't like what they're doing, then you do something else on that side to make it better. Be the change that you want to see. Otherwise, be quiet. And definitely, if you're not a voter, if you're not a person who cares about the vote, have nothing to say when this is over, one way or the other. In fact, have nothing to say now. Why destroy what is for hypothetical ideas? Because if you're not working toward placing the ideas into action, all you're doing is talking. And talking in these particular circumstances ain't worth a damn. Everyone has a purpose in this life. Many, many, many people will go to their grave not really realizing who they are or what they're supposed to be doing. On the other hand, many will be inadvertent players in the game of life for others. Because think about it. There might be, and I'm sure there are, I know there's got to be stories out there, and I can't think of any off the top of my head, but I'm sure there's somebody who at 15 or 20 years old saw their friend killed, saw a loved one murdered, saw someone become successful, saw someone complete college. And that encouraged them to go to school, straighten their life out. There's a lot of things, because you don't ever really know what's going on in somebody's head. You don't know how the things that you do and say affect those around you. And if you can make a positive impact on somebody's life just by being a good person, what does that hurt? It's free. Don't cost you nothing. It don't cost you no integrity. It don't cost you nothing. No money. Just be a good person. And even if you're a bad person, and I know everybody thinks they're good, that's just the nature of the beast. We all think we're good even when we're bad. What does it hurt? Just to help a child be better, to show them the right way, to move people to action with your words. If you're going to use words, use them where they're going to be prosperous. Don't stop people from doing the good deeds. I'm going to drop this link in here one more time, y'all. You want to come in and have a conversation with me on Zoom, all you got to do is pop that link. You can come right into the conversation. You'll be right here live on the show, just so you know. Because I'm sure everybody has a story. Everybody has something that they can be doing that benefits themselves and those around them. But then, I guess some people go through life and they have no interest or intentions of helping others or bringing others along in the world. See, you got to realize that there are people who love dysfunction so much. They're uncomfortable when good things and positive things are happening. Y'all want to know what I think? I think this election is going to have a silver lining one way or the other, because where we are right now is just flat out dangerous to me. And I believe that no matter what happens, good, bad, or indifferent, it's going to advance Black people's position in the world. I do fear, though, if Donald Trump gets back into office, y'all need to realize this. There are white people, and when I say that, I'm not talking about all white folks, because we got a lot of white folks that's out here straight up protesting. But here's what I need y'all to understand. There are white people in this world who have not been successful. Every election cycle, the powers that be, the politicians, particularly the white, powerful establishment types who have money, always use the broke white folks to fight us, the poor black folks. They pit us against one another. This tactic has been in place since the probably 1500s, 1500s. When this country first got colonized, there was not a thing called black or white. That didn't exist when you came into a description of human life. That description came to be because prior to that, every individual was called by the country that they were from. If you were from England, you were an Englishman. If you were Irish from Ireland, you were an Irishman. If you were black, you were probably called a Moor or an African. Somewhere along the way, the rich folks, the colonizers, the ones who had the big plantations and the farms, of course, they needed people to farm the land. They weren't mechanized like they are today. And in order to grow crops, you have to have someone to pick them. So the people who were picking them were the poor, the least of these, the criminals even. And it got to the point where the wealth gap, much like what we have today, the wealth gap was existent, and it absolutely was a problem because you had people out there working their ass off every single day, breaking their neck and getting very little from the rich folks. And the rich folks, of course, were getting richer and richer. I mean, let's face it. If hard work was what paid off, if hard work was what made people wealthy, then people out there picking in the fields, you would think would be the richest of these. But no, that's not how this works. And that is a cliche that has been a part of the American fabric forever. And people actually believe that hard work pays off. That's a lie. The fact is, it ain't what you do, it's how you do it. You got to work smart and not hard. Now, as these rebellions began to take place because all of the wealthy people were becoming afraid, they couldn't sleep at night. And this is a very accurate parallel to what happened during slave revolts. People were tired of getting very little for working so hard and the wealth gap. So they started killing plantation owners and taking their money and taking what they had. So you're not going to give it to us for working hard. We're going to take it. Well, they needed a way to stop all of that. So they then decided, they took the white folks and they said, look, you may not be rich right now, but you look just like me. And because you look like me, I'm going to give you a leg up. We need to keep them other folks in line. We need to keep them straight. In comes chattel slavery, not indentured servitude, which many of these people were. They had to pay for passage from other countries and things like that. So they had to work it off 7 years. But then it got to the point where they stopped allowing people to be freed. And the ones that they weren't allowing to be free were the ones who looked like me. Now, suddenly you had, well, you might not be rich like me. One day you can get there. You're white. And at least you're not black. You don't look like one of them. So guess what? Now we got black and white. Now we have the wealthy, the green, who put the black and white against one another so they can continue to get green. Lyndon Johnson, one of our previous presidents. I don't remember the exact quote. I'm going to get it right now. But you have to understand that here's a man who clearly understood exactly how the game goes. And the quote had to do with him basically saying that if you give the poorest white man basically dominion, if you make him think that he's better than the best black man, he will empty his pockets for you. You don't have to take his money. He's going to give it to you. The exact same concept has been in play for over 400 years. People think that, for example, we talk about the Willie Lynch letter. And when we talk about the Willie Lynch letter, how it's been, black folks have been conditioned through that. But in fact, white folks have been conditioned as well. All of it goes together. And so here we are with a group of people who have been led to believe throughout the last 400 or so years that they are better than anybody who looks like one of us. And so, as time moves on, right now, let me tell you the results of where we are. Here's the results. We have an underbelly of anger that's bubbling up right now. We have an underbelly in white society that is so pissed off about the fact that Donald Trump may not win this election that they're doing all sorts of things to try and stop him from winning. And here we got black people who don't think voting counts. If it didn't count, trust me, these white folks wouldn't be this upset. But they're going around now, they're going to go to the polls and watch the polls. And some of them are even talking about being armed. And I say, if you live in a state or a city where poll watchers are showing up and they're armed, the voters need to be armed too. Because if the state itself won't stop that from happening, which, by the way, that is voter intimidation and it is illegal, then you should have the right to defend yourself. And like Ida B. Wells said, those who defend themselves generally survive attacks by white folks. You got to remember that this country was founded on three things: money, violence, and religion. And in those three things, the violent part is the way colonizers have always taken over anywhere they have ever gone on this entire planet. Everywhere. And it ain't but one group of people that's gone around colonizing the whole planet out of greed and a struggle for power. And everywhere they go, they have always taken their guns and their gunpowder. And they have overwhelmed anyone that came up in front of them. We no longer live in those times. Firearms are readily available, particularly in America, to everyone. So, like Ida B. Wells stated, make sure you have yours. They have theirs. Don't be afraid to defend yourselves. I fear that this is where we are headed. And here's why. You got a lot of white folks right now in America who are very unsuccessful. See, we're back to the poor white people. They have been bamboozled. They have been led astray, run amok. They have been hoodwinked to believe that they are supposed to have more than people of color by virtue of being white, because white folks led them to believe that farce. So, because they're not successful, and they look like other successful white people like Donald Trump and his cult, because that is a cult, they're angry. They are angry because they feel like they're not being successful because they got to have somebody else to blame. See, they don't want to blame themselves because they're white. They're perfect, like Donald Trump. He walks around talking about how perfect he is. So because they think they're also perfect, they're angry. So they take up their guns and they threaten and they brandish and they walk around like, we got our guns. Y'all better watch out. This is not that time anymore. We also have our guns and we're watching too. The thing is, though, it's not going to go the way they think it is. It's not going to be a race war. There may be civil unrest, but these angry individuals are angry because they're white and unsuccessful. And they hate to see black successful people, which is the same reason why they did as much as they did to keep Barack Obama from doing anything in this country. That angry group, see, they're still out there. But we're shifting again. And that angry group is mad because their privilege is at stake. What they have become comfortable and accustomed to in regard to the way they live their lives and the fact that they get the benefit of the doubt simply by having white skin. No one is shooting them in the back. They're unarmed. And, and it's funny because I had a white guy try to tell me that just as many white people had been shot by police in America as black. But he didn't mention the part about them being armed. See, there's the difference. You got armed, you got unarmed. So that leads me to believe that black skin is a weapon because that's the only criteria they used by which to kill and murder so many black folks. And Dennis McCullum has pulled up the quote that I was looking for. I thank you, sir. And it says, if you can convince the lowest white man he's better than the best colored man, he won't notice you're picking his pocket. Hell, give him somebody to look down on and he'll empty his pockets for you. Thank you, Dennis. That is the quote that I was looking for. And this is why you have so many angry white people who are unsuccessful, who are miserable, and they don't want to see anyone black be successful or outdo them. This is the same reason we've had multiple, and I say multiple, I'm talking hundreds of massacres throughout this entire country over the last 102 years, about the last 100 years, 150 years, because every time a black community would begin to flourish and thrive in America, it would be destroyed by angry mobs of white people. Yet, black people are the violent ones. That's what we've been led to believe. That's what you see in the media, and that's what everyone has always been told. Black folks are violent. But I don't recall seeing a crowd of black people standing at the feet of a hanging white man. I don't recall any white people being beaten for whistling at a black woman and their bodies wrapped in barbed wire and tied to a cotton gin fan and dumped into the Mississippi River. Well, not the Mississippi, but I don't recall any black folks, black cops, shooting down unarmed white folks and not paying the price for it. See, these privileges are what are being stripped away. When you see white folks running around here talking about white power and they're being discriminated against, I don't get mad at them. I get it. I understand what it is they're saying because, in fact, they are becoming the minority. But it's by their own doing. We didn't do that to them. They're doing it to themselves. See, all that hate and anger, it'll come back to you. It might not even come in your lifetime, but it'll come to your ancestors. It'll come to your children. It'll come to your grandchildren. It's coming. They're doing everything in their power to maintain. This is very similar to the situation that took place in South Africa. For so long, many white South Africans treated black people over there, Africans, like they were the scum of the earth, like they were nothing, murdered them, killed them, did all sorts of stuff to them. And this is in recent decades, until the African nation turned it around and said, hey, no more. Now they're the minority. Now they're having to try and fend for themselves and survive it all and do it legally. See, the problem is it's always been legal to treat us the way that we've been treated on this continent. All of that's changing. And the only way that's going to continue to change is if you vote. If you vote for people who are interested in seeing justice and equality come to pass. And it needs to be young people. We don't need any more 70-something-year-old men running this country. But this is where we are at the moment, and we're going to have to deal with that for now. But we need to start looking at other parties, creating other parties, creating other avenues and venues by which to better ourselves. Instead of saying, we're not going to do anything. You have to do something. You can't do nothing and expect something to happen. And don't even talk about praying about it, because prayer without works is dead. And y'all know that. See, when they can't get ahead, they're going to have somebody to point a finger at. Just like y'all's president. He said last night, I take full responsibility, but it ain't my fault. That's that perfection right there. Yeah. And I firmly believe that when we see these people that say they are undecided, the only people that are undecided about this election are Trump supporters. And they're undecided because they want to support him so badly, because they need to maintain their privilege. But it's hard because they know he's stupid. They know he's stupid. They know he does the dumbest things. They know he's a liar. They know that he's crazy. They know that he has his hands on the nuclear codes. But they'd rather balance and try to make sense out of keeping him in office to protect their privilege, to protect what they have been told that they are for a century. They're trying to protect their way of life. And they would rather protect that than anything else and watch the entire earth burn before they'll give that up. It's what we call the scorched earth mentality. If I can't have it, nobody can. He'll tear the whole thing down before they allow it to go into anybody else's hands, or they have to actually be equal to other people. But they're losing their grip. It's true. So I don't get mad at them when they yell white power. I don't get mad at them when they jump up and down about everything that's going on. I understand. I'm not saying I'm cool with it, but I ain't mad at them. It is what it is. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm done. I have ranted long enough tonight, but I hope that I have at least planted a seed, encouraged, motivated, or just simply added to you in a way that gives you food for thought and helps you understand that everything you say and everything you do influences someone around you, whether you like it or not, whether it's good or bad. So try as hard as you can to make the things that you say and do for others good. That way, your contribution to this life and to this world may one day change the world as minute as you may think it is, some seed that you plant in a child today, it may not flourish in that child. It may flourish in that child's child. I know that sounds crazy as hell, but let me tell you something. It's amazing the way things happen. If we look at history and we think back to people who others would say didn't amount to nothing, how many of us have had deadbeat fathers, absent mothers? But had we not been born into this life, will we be able to make the changes that we do? Would the people who have made changes around us that made our lives better, would they have even been here to make those changes? Daddy might not have been shit, but he planted a seed that made a difference. That is what we need to be worried about. Now, don't get it twisted, because you got a lot of people who run around here with the whole, I can't vote for Biden because he believes in abortion. Well, I'm not for it. I'm not against it. But what I am against is a bunch of men trying to tell women what to do with their bodies. And I think that every person who believes that abortion is the only way should be required to adopt a child. See, you can't jump up and down about the lives of unborn children and then turn around and shit on them same children whose parents are on welfare, whose parents need help, who are living in poverty. You can't have it one way and not the other. If their lives are so important to you, kick in, break bread. Otherwise, shut the hell up. Real talk. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it. I'm Brian Forbes. That's been my time. Don't forget to subscribe, hit your notifications. Check us out on Facebook, Periscope, Twitch, and YouTube. I appreciate each and every one of y'all. Thank you for hanging out with me on this Friday night. Y'all really don't understand how important this is to me and how important you all are to me. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, I love you. Love, peace, and chicken grease. We out of here.